Hello, my little honey drops. I am back with another episode of Fanfare. It's been a while. This episode is on the Part 1 Wicked film that recently came out. Kind of recently. Anyways, if you've been living under a rock, Wicked is about a girl named Elphaba that was, due to her mother's infidelity, born green, which causes her father to give her less love over her sister, Nessa Rose. Now, they're both going to Shiz University, where Elphaba meets a slew of crazy characters that she has to get through to hone her magic, and make people see more of her than just her green skin. Oh, and it's set in the land of Oz. You know, from the movie, The Wizard of Oz. But you can't guess who she becomes by the end of this whole fiasco. Now, to give a short, non-spoiler review, it was good. I liked it. I mean, obviously I had issues with it, and some of the choices they made were strange, but overall, 8 out of 10? Which some of you might not believe by the end of this, because I have a lot of feelings, but that's fine. Now, on to what I think about everything, in as much detail as I can give. That being said, I'm not actually really sure where to start, so I guess we'll start with the general dislikes I harbor for both the movie and the show as a whole. Now, obviously the movie is just Act 1 of the popular stage production, and even on its own, I have issues with this beloved show. For example, why is the school called Shiz? I get that this is a funny word, and they use funny words all the time, but why Shiz? We can all agree that that's a horrible school name, right? I mean, I know we have bad names in this world too, but Shiz? Really? Now, before you go and yell at me, I know it's based on the word shiznits, which has roots in being the best or whatever, but like, it just makes me think that this school is shit. And even shiznits is a weird word. I just don't like it. Alright? Next. Glinda sucks. Now. I know there are some that are going to come after me for this, and you are free to do so. Trust me, I get it. And I know she gets kinda better as the show goes on, but like, she's so awful in Act 1. Example 1. How she gets upset with Dr. Dillamond when he can't say her name correctly. He explains how he can't because of how his face is literally built, and she gets all huffy and puffy with him. Does that sound like a nice and wonderful person? If yes, you need therapy! My second example is the song Popular. I know it's a fun song, but leading up to it, we get a look at how Glinda sees the world. She even grabs the precious green bottle that Elphaba almost cuddles with while sleeping, and treats it like it's a goofy replaceable souvenir. She then follows it up by hearing Elphaba's story and why this green bottle means so much to her, and then she starts singing about how pretty Elphaba is, if only she... Well, honestly, I don't think Popular really gives you rules on how to do things. It seems more like a list of what not to do. You can't have brains or knowledge. You have to be a 50s housewife, almost. And also, good at sports? I have a question. What sports do you think Glinda and Elphaba would be good at? I'm genuinely curious, because if you have to be popular by being good at sports, what sport does Glinda do? My third example goes to the song Previous, Dancing Through Life. At first, Glinda wants to be with Fiyero because he's hot, And yes, while she does start to grow actual feelings for the funny man, at first she just thinks that they'd work because they're both attractive. And then we have her with Bach. And don't worry, I think Bach has his own problems, and we'll get to them next, but the way Galinda shoos him off so that way she doesn't have to deal with him at the party, it's not great. Take this for example. The line of, "Gee, I know someone would be my hero if that someone were to go invite her." While on the surface, that seems nice. She's only doing it to get away from him though, which I would too, but that doesn't properly help anyone. It just makes things worse overall. Especially in Bach's case. Bach is such a pick-me boy. He tries to be on Galinda's side in every way that he can, even pretending to like Nessa Rose as if that will make him seem more like a knight in shining armor. And his obsession with Galinda just is so unnerving. My last dislike that spans both the movie and the stage musical is Elphaba's dance at the Ozdust Ballroom. I know that everyone sees this part differently, and my friend Keith even thinks that it's supposed to be cute and endearing. But I just get such horrible secondhand embarrassment from it, and it just makes me want to go hide under the wheels of a bus. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand why it exists. That does not mean that I have to like it, and I understand it's a growing point for both Elphaba and Galinda, but it makes me shiver uncomfortably, just... Okay, so that about covers all of my dislikes for both the movie and the show, so let's just go over things I don't like about the movie, shall we? This is going to be such a long video. Oh god, what have I done to myself? Let's start, shall we? For instance, instead of Alpha being sent to the school to look after her sister because her father can't protect her precious favorite baby at Shiz, they just have him make the choice to have Elphaba look after her till Nessa Rose makes it to her room? I'm sorry, but that whole bit was really confusing. I liked the plot of Elphaba only being able to get sent to such a beloved school due to her father's overprotective nature. It felt very real, and I really connected to that. And I understand that this is a college/university of some sort, but we don't know how their school system accepts students. We don't know how that works. So maybe all it would take is a word from both the girl's father to get them both in. Especially if they mention that Elphaba would be there to mostly help her disabled sister. I mean, in the movie, all it took was one word from Madame Morbold to get Elphaba into the school in the movie, right? I mean, Elphaba did a destructive act of magic and got to stay. Somehow. Was it a scholarship? Is her father paying for it? The world may never know. Also, speaking of Madame Marble, in the show, she's both a professor and the headmistress. In the movie, they removed her power as a headmistress and gave that to a whole different person. So Madame Marble is just a professor that's there and sometimes just doesn't teach if she doesn't see anyone worth enough potential to teach. How does that work? I understand that it removes some sort of potential awkwardness from Elphaba and Nessa meeting the headmistress, given that they share the lines of Nessa being tragically beautiful and Elphaba being beautifully tragic. But I think that they could have kept Madame Marble in her original spot, but instead of making her scared by Elphaba's green skin, have her just be spooked because the girl snuck up on her. It would also give her an even more front row seat to Elphaba's magic when she gets upset over not being able to look after her sister. And speaking of that magic fiasco, Elphaba hits some sort of stone emblem that has the wizard on it, to which it then breaks and reveals a completely different emblem underneath it. This one having an image of the animal people teaching and attending this school, which I understand how this can connect to the movie, but it seems useless since no one points it out and seems to only be for our eyes. Maybe it's for those who have never seen Wicked to help them understand the future events, like the wizard sucking as a person, but still. Oh, and then they took Fiero's friend away? In the stage production, Fiero has a friend that brings him to the school, and they even have a cute little handshake most of the time. But in the movie, he rides in on a horse, which is so weird to me because is that horse sentient? Like Dr. Dillamond? Does he work for Fiero? Does he get paid? Does he have a name? It just makes me question so much about this world, and I know that it's not that important, but if it's there, then I'm gonna ask about it. I'm pretty sure he even chuckles. Sorry about that. It will happen again. Anyways, Fiero's song Dancing Through Life also has an interesting change to it, in the fact that they changed how they get to the Ozdas ballroom, and how that side of the song plays out. Let me explain. There's a place in the song where Fiero asks, "So, what's the most swankified place in town?" Which then leads to the group of students to throw a party in the ballroom. However, in the movie, he doesn't ask about the ballroom at all. In fact, he says that they're going to have to sneak out to go dance there, which really makes no sense since Madame Morble finds them there later on, because Elphaba gives Galinda the chance to be in the special magic class with her because Bach asked her sister out, but that's whatever. And then Madame Marble doesn't say anything about them sneaking out. Now, granted, there's a chance she just really doesn't care, but that doesn't feel right. Honestly, that feels like the perfect time to revoke Elphaba's request of getting Galinda into her class by saying that she broke school policy and sneaked out. That would give her the perfect chance to give this girl detention, a bad grade, something. But no, they sneak out and a professor catches them and nothing is done. Nothing comes of it, which is so weird. There are other weird things like that in the movie as well. Like the outfits that they give Galinda and Elphaba. Now, don't get me wrong, the fact that Galinda has custom school attire in all the shades of pink makes total sense. But for Elphaba? For her to have custom school uniforms in shades of black? No, I really can't see that. I think it's cool, do not get me wrong, but for Elphaba, a neglected daughter, to get custom clothing and not her sister? That doesn't feel correct, and I know that she's, looked highly upon by Madame Marble, but is Madame Marble paying for these outfits? I don't think that's true either. In the casting for the film, why do all the Munchkins seem so tall? Granted, I know that there's no official height to Munchkins, but Bach is taller than Galinda. How is he a Munchkin? I might be missing something since I've never read the book, but the height choice is weird, okay? I understand that I'm only really going from the movie standpoint, where they are shorter people, but to be called a Munchkin, I feel like that connects to being at least on the shorter side, but the actor is taller than Galinda. What? You can't make short jokes when the guy is taller than Galinda! Whatever. Now, two little things that I don't like. The are not on the actors or the script is the song Popular's one note. In the flip, someone left a digital artifact, thank you, Tim Welsh, in the audio that kind of drives me up the wall because it's not just once. It's every time she does the flip in Popular. And it just drives me insane because this is supposed to be a very high budget film and you fucked up on that? The most popular song? Joke intended? What? The other small thing that drives me a little insane is Elphaba's cape. Yeah. What the actual fuck? Who was in charge of that? Who did that? What? Now, this last dislike of the film is more of a mixed feeling than anything else. In the song Something Bad, it's a duet between Elphaba and the Doctor when it's done on the stage. But in the film, it's some sort of support group that the Doctor is hosting. It doesn't have a lot of content in it, but there are parts that I liked and others that I just thought were odd. But it's nothing really to write home about, even though it did make it into this script. Huh. Anyways, who's ready for some positivity? Yes, that's right. We have finally made it to the positivity section. Hi, editing B here. Actually, I have one little itsy-bitsy little add-on that I didn't like from the film that I forgot to add into my script until I was rewatching the movie because I had to rewatch it to then record the whole thing. Don't worry about it. I love having to get scenes from movies. Anyways, with totally legal hardware. I don't like that it's in two parts. Mainly because we all know what Jeff Goldblum sounds like, and people can Google who Elphaba's dad is. Not only because, you know, it's in the actual show, but also because we all know what Jeff Goldblum sounds like. He has a very distinct voice. So to separate it into two parts, I think ruins that part of the story. Granted, that could just be me. But, yeah, that's my other little add-on that my dumb self forgot to put in the actual script. Yay! Anyways, time for positivity. This list is actually shorter than my dislikes, but that doesn't mean I can't talk about how much I like certain parts of this film. I'll say that most of the humor and the jokes landed for me, and Ariana's opening as Galinda was very good. The "I can't hear you from inside the bubble" was very funny. And I did talk about this in my dislike section, but I actually really liked how Galinda had custom school clothing. She comes from a seemingly rich and affluent family, so giving her school clothes that make her stand out and look like the princess she thinks she is really fits her character. I also like that in the movie, during the song The Wizard and I, when Elphaba sings about how she felt that there would be a certain celebration all about her, she can actually see something in the water. Now, I could be wrong, but I'm 99% sure that the image reflected in the water is the scene that happens at the very beginning of the film, when they're burning a statue of her and screaming happily of her death. Which is honestly very clever. I know that some might sigh and tell me that it's so obvious, but did we watch the same film? A lot of the movie and even the original songs are very on the nose, especially in The Wizard and I. She talks about people celebrating her and how she could just melt with happiness. I go back and forth on how I feel about the on-the-nose stuff, but most of the time, I think it's fun. But I gotta be in the mood for it, to be fair. I also think that most of the blocking and choreography for most of the songs is very fun and almost clever at times. For example, everyone does the boo differently at the end of Loathing, but with the song being almost a montage in the movie, I think that the way that they did it was very funny and fun overall. And honestly, if they could actually do something similar on stage, I'd recommend it. My next example is the choreography for almost every song. I mean, most of the dances have turned into TikTok trends, if TikTok is still alive by now, but who knows? Anyways, that being said, there's also a trend where people decide what they would hit you with if you said you disliked a certain song. Most of the Wicked trends on the internet are really funny in my humblest of opinions. And especially the videos of people trying to get into the theater in full body paint and then having to wash all of it off because they thought it would be okay to wear that into a movie theater. The little schadenfreude side of myself thinks that that's very funny. But back to the movie. A small change that I like is the fact that Galinda tries to meet Fiyero by pretending to give him a tour of the school, even when she very clearly has no idea what or where anything is. I get a chuckle out of it. Then you have the poppy flowers that Elphaba brings to class. If it's been a while since you've seen the original Wizard of Oz movie, you might not remember that the Wicked Witch of the West actually puts our main cast to sleep with the power of a poppy field. So for this to be how she and Fiyero free the lion cub, I think is a much better change than just causing them to aggressively dance like in the stage show as they change scenes. I also like the fact that we're able to see Fiyero and Elphaba's facial expressions leading into Not That Girl. I also go back and forth on liking this song, but overall, I think it was done well in the movie, and I like how they portrayed Fiero's Pharaoh-ness in this part of the show. Which is when we start to see that spark that leads to the fire that will become their romance. Which reminds me, like I said, Fiyero starts to grow feelings for Elphaba after this, which leads to devastation from Galinda, and even causes her to change her name from Galinda to Glinda. You know, like how Dr. Dillamond pronounced it. And I kind of like this scene more in the movie because she pronounces this change to all of her classmates and not just Fiyero and Elphaba, so it ends up feeling more permanent and not something she can just backtrack on later. Now, we make our way to the Emerald City. 1, this song gets stuck in my head way too much, and 2, we get our original girlies! If you've been living under a rock, the original Galinda and Elphaba were given their own section in this introduction song for the Emerald City. And while I would have loved for Idina Menzel to be Dr. Dillamond and Kristen Chenoweth to play Madame Marble, the fact that they're here at all just makes me happy, and for them to be given a singing part? Peak. Lovely. No notes. Some notes. Minor notes. And my final favorite thing for this movie was the slow realization from Elphaba on why she's here and what the wizard wants for her to do. The "you have no real power" part was really well shot and executed, along with the lead into "Hope You're Happy," which some connect straight into Defying Gravity, but I think it's its own little thing, but that just might just be me. I don't know. Anyways, I'm getting a little off track with that. Like I said at the beginning, I think this movie is a solid 8 out of 10. Though I know my list of gripes was long, I think it was a fun film. Especially if you have no idea what Wicked is going into it. And I will always think it's funny that just the first part of the movie is as long, if not longer, than the whole stage production as a whole. Which obviously is 2 acts. They did a lot in this film. But overall, I like this film. I may never watch it again beyond this point, but I might recommend it. Especially when the second part is coming out, which, if this gets enough attention and ask, I'll cover that part as well. I honestly might have more to say about Act 2, given my love for Fiyero and his story as a character, and I'm very curious to see how all of that will play out in Part 2. But until then, I hope you have a good day or night wherever you are in the world, and I'm gonna go buzz off now. Oh, and I forgot to add that I think that the father's death was really funny. Okay, bye!